Cheers, my good bitch. Oh, man. It's been 2 weeks.
It has. Our schedules just haven't lined up well.
Yeah, I mean, we see each other because we're not like one of those like polyamorous type of relationships where we have visitation rights to. I see your as much as I can.
Wow.
Yeah, I would love to see it every day. We're going to see it after this.
5, 4, 3 all the way. Then we got to one finger salute. We have Caffeine Controversy, the podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of Caffeine Controversy. It is, of course, your boy, Big Fluffster, Mr. Yams, Ham, Little Ones. I does it. I got illegitimates, possibly. Who knows?
What?
I don't know. Maybe. I've been throwing this D around for over 25 years. And then we have Miss PGP, Miss Thickums, Angry Pear.
Well, you describe yourself that would make people question why I'm with you.
I don't know why you're with me every day. Like, it's a literal thing, because, like, you're dating a reformed whore.
We're not. We're married.
Yeah. Well, you still date when you're married.
Yes.
I think that's something that's a lost art in relationships. Yeah. That you should still date the person that you're married to. So yeah, we're still dating. Yeah. We just said we're permanent dating.
Yes.
In front of God that we don't believe in.
I mean, God, or was it Hub?
Hub.
Who thinks he's a god?
Yeah, this is true. I mean,
his IG is Son of God.
Yeah, I mean, look, we both believe in a higher power. We just believe that motherfuckers sleep at the wheel half the time, especially when it comes to our finances, for sure.
Yeah.
But how you been? How's
Good.
your perimenopause?
Also, I just want to add, we have nothing against polyamorous relationships. It's just not for us.
I give people all the credit that can share.
I could never.
I wouldn't want to.
I don't want to, and I have too much past trauma that I couldn't relax enough to, like, trust and believe. And I know that's a me thing. I know it's all about trust to be able to have those relationships, but
Yeah. Could you ever do a threesome?
No.
No?
No.
What about the devil's threesome?
That's you and another guy?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I'm proud of you for that.
No, I don't want anybody but you. I don't need anybody but you.
Good answers.
And I wouldn't want to see you in that situation because I feel like you would get competitive.
There's nothing to be competitive for, like, but yeah, I definitely would.
You'd be different.
I'll go to jail.
And I wouldn't want to see you with another chick, so there's no way.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Honestly, like, I couldn't really do that. If you would have asked me in my younger days, all day.
You haven't you?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like,
but like, to separate the emotions of it, yeah, all day. I can't do that anymore. Like, I think one of the things that's really impactful with marriage is when you find the person that you want to be with is like, that's the person you want to be with.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you feel like trapped in a way. Or,
yeah, not at all.
Or like,
at least this time around.
I know. Guilt tripped or in a way or anything like that. Like, you want to be with them.
Yeah.
And you don't really see yourself stepping out of that to violate that. I mean, and I'll be honest, like, I've done some hoe shit where I've stepped out of relationships or relationships have ended, and me, like, literally that night, I put some meat on somebody, like, that night. Like, it's a different time for me, and it's a different lifestyle for me, but it's also that I think knowing the difference if you can love your partner and not like them.
Yeah.
Like, I love you and like you.
Yeah.
So it's like, and knowing that there's a difference between that, like, you can fall out of like with your partner and love them for everything that they are, but you don't have to like them, you know what I mean? Or you can like the person you're with, and that's the homie, but then there's no love to make it where it's like, that's why I can see how people can stay friends with their exes, is because you like them, you just don't love them no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of been like one of the biggest things on Instagram this past couple of weeks is with Dalton Ain't Worried.
Yeah.
Dalton Ain't Worried has been like talking about his relationship with Saco, and it has gotten progressively messier and messier and messier, mainly because like he's putting stuff out there. Now Saco has remained silent, and this is for once I've been in the threads on this.
I know this has been your...
I think it's just because, like, one, it's relatively close. He's in West Virginia. We live in Western PA, so it's like an hour away. So it's like within our news, like our local news.
Yeah.
One. Two, it's an interracial relationship.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's be real here.
It was a quick timeline.
Yeah, and most people look for things on IG that they can relate to, that they can identify to. An interracial relationship is something that I've always looked at because I've always dived in some snow, right? And this has been like one of the biggest stories on IG. It started with him doing that crying video.
Yeah.
And, you know, him disclosing some really personal things of his friends and passings of his friends, his mom being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And then also going through the possibility of like, where's Saco?
Yeah.
Now, through that, there has been a couple of videos of, you know, Saco not being there, questions needed to be answered and things like that. I know you've been following along with it. What is your thoughts?
So I worry about her mental health because it looks like he has the kid.
Yeah.
And typically, not always, as we've known from like the Lindsay Clancy case and all of that, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But typically something has to be like drastic for a mother to step away from the kid.
Yes and no.
Yeah, not always, but like I would say 75
something's not normal
to 25%.
Something's not normal. Something's out of the range of like absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that he is a bad father or not worthy of having the kid there. I'm just saying typically when a mom leaves, she takes the kids.
Yep.
And so when he said he doesn't know where she's at, it's not like they're separated and the little boy was dropped off for that week, like his weekend. It sounds like she up and disappeared and he has the boy, the dog, the pond, like life other than her and his mom is like the same for him. Mm-hmm. That she bounced and then his mom's sick.
Yeah.
Which from that perspective, I can completely understand because my mom had stage 4 ovarian cancer and my first husband was cheating and like I was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
So I get like the emotional side of like that aspect of like your closest person, your mother is sick. You can't do anything else for them at this point. You know that there's an end date.
Yeah.
And the person that's supposed to be your support is checked out.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that with IG is, and with anything, because it was on IG, Facebook, because I think Dalton's our age. I think he's like in his 40s.
He's closer to your age.
Yeah.
I'm a little older.
Yeah, so I think...
And then she's
younger.
A good chunk younger.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that is really going to be like in the future is the telltale signs of what's going to happen when Saco finally says something.
Yeah.
Because right now Dalton's saying everything.
Yeah.
And she's really guilty in the eyes of public opinion.
Yeah.
Because there was a video that recently got leaked of her partying with some guys.
Yeah.
Now, granted, these are guys that have been to where they've been at in West Virginia.
Yeah. But one of the guys my ex cheated with, or one of the women that my ex cheated with, was the wife of a coworker that like I saw. Not my coworker, his. One of them was his coworker who talked to me through my whole pregnancy, cheered us on, and then believed his lies that he was leaving me.
Yep. And this is probably going to be like one of the crazy. It was in Columbus, Ohio. They got spotted because Columbus is a good party town. I mean, there's a lot to do, and there's a wide array of places where you can go to party.
And it's also probably about 4 hours from where they're at in West Virginia.
Yeah.
So it's a distance.
Yep,
but not too far.
It's a stretch. It's a drive away that if something were to transpire and somebody says, "I'm going to ride on you tonight," then you got 4 hours to get prepared.
Yeah.
Like, and it leaked, and then there was obviously backlash from it because one of the guys I was in there was talking about Dalton and saying that, you know, you're putting all this stuff out there, but wait till Saco tells her side. And I think that's the thing that's probably the most alarming is if and only if this will turn on Dalton if there's a signs of abuse.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, like, if there's a signs of abuse that he was an abuser or that he stepped out or that he was sending violent or confusing or attacking type text messages that make her go off the deep end to trigger something within her own mental health, right?
Yeah.
And this is also going to be a thing, is that how many women are going to side with her on the fact of mental health because of like the Lindsay Clancy thing, is like how many women are siding on that because of the mental health and things like that. And also the holes within the case, but we're going to touch on that a little bit later. But it's like, there's so much of that a woman can use to basically substantiate that her claims that the man drove me to this point.
Right.
Now, is that true? That's what Saco is going to have to, and I'm sorry, if she bows out of the public eye and just wants to say, hey, I'm going to take my kid, live my life, blah, 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 good for you, right? But then it's only Dalton's story that's told.
Right.
And when that kid gets older, he's going to ask, Mommy, was Dad lying or were you lying?
Right. The thing is, there's a couple things with that. One, there's been a lot of, because I get, like, my threads in regards to it is a lot of women siding with her or concerned for her just because of how my other threads, like the algorithm is for me with it. And a lot of them are concerned because of how fit he's got and how quick he got fit. And they're, like, concerned of, like, is it, like, rage-induced because of, like, stuff he could be taking? So there's some concern with that. And then because, like, he got fit and in shape, like, did that spur on violence or whatever. And then there's, like, the side of things where if she remains quiet and just maybe does a statement of, like, I'm not gonna speak on this and, like, just kind of disappear, that doesn't mean behind the scenes in day-to-day life that she can't tell the kid the situation. Or do something like that I did, where I didn't talk ill of my ex to my kid until he was a teen and could see it himself. And, like, let him
formulate his own opinion on it. I think that's one way of approaching it. Because, again, I look at it from the aspect of, like, I'm a guy. I'm going to look at it from a guy's perspective, right? And granted, they both own that spot in West Virginia. They're both on the lease of that because they both talked about that in previous videos. I truly feel that the only way that this gets resolved in any form is if they both collectively do a video together addressing it.
Yeah.
And they say, this is a line in the sand. I'm not going to talk about her. She's not going to talk about me. What happened is what happened. And going from there. Now, will that happen? Probably not.
Right.
So I want to talk about from the standpoint of somebody who went through a transformation within a marriage.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of weight in my first marriage. And I can honestly say, like, it made me a different person because I was upset with the fact that my partner wouldn't get healthy. Not healthy from a standpoint of just weight loss, but mental health. And that took a toll on me. And I'll be honest, I said some things I probably shouldn't have said. And I regret that because it takes two to tango. Like when you have a marriage that ends in divorce, sometimes like it takes a lot it takes both of you to get to that point. Either through someone being completely and utterly a POS and then somebody letting them be the POS, you know? So, and I didn't necessarily want weight loss, but I just wanted health because the mental health was terrible and it wasn't getting any better. And I understood that my change ultimately was going to change my marriage, and it ended it. I'll be honest, it ended it. Like, I was a different person than what she married, and it was brought up constantly how I was a different person. And then it was like, yeah, this is not good for me. And it ended the way that it ended. You know, and that's for me and my ex and things like that. Like it was a very difficult end. And but body changes lead to relationship changes. Yeah. Especially when one side changes and when the other one doesn't.
When you stop tolerating stuff that you tolerated in regards to yourself, not even from another person, when you decide like, oh, I don't have to just accept XYZ, I can make these changes to improve XYZ. Yep. Then you start to look at every other aspect of your life of like, why am I tolerating this then? Why am I tolerating that? When you put yourself first health-wise and start to feel better, you realize how much other shit you tolerated in life.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
People, jobs, living situations, like you just, it highlights everything.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that you can, I feel with like Dalton is within his change is the fact that it could be something into that point. I personally don't think it is because he admitted he wanted to lose weight from before. If he's on gear, which TRT is a normal healthy dose. TRT has never made anybody high doses of testosterone has made people roid rage. TRT is at a moderate doctor approved level of maybe 100 to 250 milligrams a week. And that's usually test-cypionate. Like it's a longer releasing steroid. It's like a GLP-1. You take it one shot a week and then you're good. So that keeps you at a base level.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he is. I'm just saying that's some of the stuff that's coming up on my side.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I truly believe through all of this, where it could be, because there's been so many rumors about this dude that he stepped out, she stepped out, he started smashing dudes, then she cheated, he lost weight, and now he feels like he's too good for her because she's bigger. Granted, she got bigger because she had the kid, and then she hasn't lost the baby weight, and it's like you hear all these things like, oh, she left because his mom was like at the end of the day, like, this is what happens when you play out your life in social media. Yeah. You're going to have, I mean, we experience it, and we're not even at the level of what they have. They're millions of followers deep. Yeah.
And also, how much are they, or how much is he playing up the drama that everybody's posting about them? Yeah. Because he knows it's raking in the money. Yeah, and he's got to help with his mother's cancer treatment. Yeah.
So, is it a smart business move? 1,000%. Mm-hmm. Is it an ethical business move? No. And I think it's from that standpoint of, you got to do what you got to do to take care of your family and fuck everybody else. Yeah.
Especially when you haven't had a real job for a while.
You haven't had a real job. You have a kid to support. You have a mother going through stage 4, and you got a divorce to pay for. Because let's be real here. Regardless, he's going to lose half. Yeah. Minimum. Whether right or wrong, he's going to lose half. Yeah. So, and that's just the side effects of what people would say is being a man and having an income. You're going to lose half of it.
Yeah, because they probably didn't have a prenup because they got together before they got famous.
Yeah.
So there probably wasn't anything really in place.
No. So, and if it's an equal divorce, it would be a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And who's to say that that's going to happen?
Yeah.
And so that's going to probably go to court and be played out in court. And one of the things that you've been watching that's been played out in court has been the Lindsay Clancy trial that literally has consumed all of your free time.
It has. I feel like I'm on the jury.
It reminds me of the old school court TV joints.
I know. It was a nice kind of 90s O.J. Simpson trial flashback, especially when the one prosecutor felt like she had her, if the glove don't fit, you have to acquit moment when she got out the exercise bands and it didn't. It just made her look cunty, really, is what it did.
Speak on it. Start from the beginning.
So it's a story that happened in your original area of the woods. It was Massachusetts.
Yep.
And it 2023, mother, Lindsay Clancy, 3 small children, 5, 3, and 8 months. Mm-hmm. They had to be huge Titanic fans because the little girl's name is Cara, who is the little girl that Leonardo's character, Jack Dawson, that's the boy's name, dances with in Titanic. Mm-hmm. The 8-month-old is Cal, and that was the fiance of Rose's original character. So there has to be some kind of... It's a weird coincidence if all 3 names just happen to be... Because they're not super common.
Speaking of ships sinking.
So she had postpartum psychosis with the children,
which is not uncommon.
Right?
It's not uncommon. It happens way more, and a lot of women actually do speak about it more.
Yeah, I mean, postpartum depression's more common than psychosis. Psychosis is like the next step up.
Yeah,
but it is like it's not like completely unheard of.
Yeah,
and she was doing everything to get help. She went to so many different doctors and so many things for medicine and tried the different recommendations, willingly checked herself into a program at Rhode Island Women and Infants.
Where I was born.
And they ended up turning her away because they felt that she was too medicated and that they couldn't
Women and Infants is a shitty
her.
fucking hospital. After my mom had, you know how many, back in the day, they literally told her to scrap it with me.
Yeah.
That was the norm because she was in her 30s and she was postpartum, I believe, with my sister and was pregnant with me.
Yeah.
And literally,
because you guys were back to back.
Yeah. And they literally said, you need to scrap it with this one. This one could be born with a third eye or some shit. Literally,
they thought you were going to be special.
Yeah, and not in the, PBS special or Reading Rainbow special, the Carlos Mencia special. Yeah. So, it was... Oh, we got a black cat. It was one of those things where I was every single time and Nigel used to work for them, so I say them. And this is the thing. They turned her away. This is primary women and infants. They turned her away instead of saying, hey, we're going to take you in and we're going to regulate your medication intake. Which has been the proper thing to do. Yeah.
She switched doctors at one point because I don't remember why she switched from her original to this new one. But then the new one was going to be on vacation for 2 weeks, so she didn't want her to taper down from the medicine because she wasn't there to regulate it.
Yeah.
And there was cases where the doctors wouldn't read the transcript from the other doctor because they wanted to go into it with their own opinion. Mm-hmm. But when she keeps coming back to you and saying these medicines aren't working, this is making me feel this way, this is making me feel this way, mm-hmm. Maybe you should review previous notes and thoughts.
Yeah.
Don't just, and then the husband.
Now, this is a dude that, now we talk about shoes on the other foot. We talked about where the woman is obviously getting, the woman's still getting, really smoked on like the whole aspect of like the trial and things like that. And we talk about with Dalton and Saco. The husband is really like problematic as hell. And didn't his mom testify for her?
Yes.
So let's speak on that.
So Patrick Clancy, typical like white guy, works for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Prime example of just how shitty this man is. She was having one of her really bad days and checked herself into the hospital. He talked to the hospital and they said it would be like an all-day thing. He didn't want to sit with his wife who was going through postpartum psychosis because he didn't want to sit in the hospital. So he dropped her off and went skiing. We would have been divorced. If you would have had the nerve to drop me off and not even go back home and take care of the kids. Like, family was watching the kids. He went skiing.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'll share a story with you off air. But I understand, like, as somebody who's dealt with somebody who had mental health issues and has his own mental health issues, you want to try to be as supportive as possible. Because, now granted, if you have your own mental health issues, it's very hard to take on somebody else's.
Right.
It can almost be a toxic type of thing when you do certain things like that. However, you can invest in the understandings of someone's mental health issues without taking them on solely as your responsibility.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to have mental health issues.
No.
He's just a piece of shit.
Yeah. And like, there was, he's already remarried.
To somebody that looks like his ex-wife.
Yeah. That person ended up being his high school sweetheart. So then it's like, oh, was Lindsay a filler and now Rachel's available again?
Yeah.
So Lindsay and the kids are a problem. They're hindering me from the life that I want. The day after so I'm jumping ahead a little. The timeline of the day. He had previously, just a couple days before the murders happened, he had gone away on a business trip for 2 days. So you know that your wife is dealing with thoughts of harming the kids.
Yeah.
And you leave her for 2 days.
With the kids.
Yeah. All three. He fired the nanny because she's not working now, so she doesn't need the nanny help. Okay. Money. She was a nurse. He works for Microsoft. Like, they made good money. Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't like they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Maybe cut back on a skiing trip and
Yeah.
help your wife with the kids and like, or have somebody help your wife with the kids kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then suddenly, when he's going on a like 30 to 40 minute run of picking up medicine and takeout, she decides to all three kids and herself when she had 2 days before that she could have them and nobody would have found them for 2 days. So like, it would have been a done deal. Like, there would have been no risk of being caught mid attempt.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. And then supposedly, in this short time window, he gets caught lying on the stand saying that he sent the email from his phone, but then said he sent it from Surface Pro. Surface Pro is only on his work computer in the house basement. So that put him at the house.
Time of the murders.
Later than when he said he left.
Yeah.
Then her Apple Watch stops. Last recording of her heartbeat is like way earlier than when she supposedly like fell out the window and everything. And it has her heart rate as 57 beats a minute, which is like low. Mm-hmm. Then he calls her from CVS to say they don't have Pedialyte, they only have the generic. Is that okay? She doesn't answer, but then calls him right back. But the crime scene photos of the CVS bag shows the brand name Pedialyte purchased. Mm-hmm. Also in that crime scene photo, there is 2 plates, like kids' plates, sat on top of the CVS bag. So you walk in the house, you don't hear your wife or 3 kids, and you take time to gather up plates and sit them on top of the bag you just brought in. Like, weird things. In that time frame, she supposedly all 3 kids with these exercise bands that don't have her DNA. They only have his fingerprints on them. They don't have hers. Which, granted, it's in his house. His fingerprints would be on them. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but it would have hers on there.
Yeah. Because she wasn't found with gloves on. Mm-hmm. There wasn't any other gloves. And if she's herself right after...
Why would she need gloves?
Exactly. So she supposedly, all 3 of them, goes upstairs... pills, puts them in a lemonade to drink them. She's a nurse. Like,
you can easily, that's a ill-fated attempt, because you can easily go and get like your stomach pumped if you really wanted to like off it.
Yeah,
you for things.
Then she also then both wrist, but not in the right direction, so they barely.
So she knows this.
It's also she grabs a giant like butcher knife.
That's overkill.
And then slices her neck, but in the wrong direction from somebody that's right-handed.
So that means somebody...
Either above, like, or somebody that's left-handed. But she's not left-handed. And she drugs herself, cuts herself.
It's too much.
And then supposedly jumps headfirst out of a second-story window.
That's too much. Because even with the psychosis is an absence of reality. And that's the definition of psychosis. It's a moment in absence of reality and cognitive thought. If she's a nurse, the cognitive thought would still... The absence would be the actual act of taking the child's life. The cognitive thought wouldn't dissipate. She would know what to do and how to do it.
And, like... There was a Google search, like, the day before or, like, 2 days before on how to cut the carotid artery. Mm-hmm. A nurse wouldn't need to Google that. And carotid was spelled wrong. Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah.
And then, like, the way she supposedly dove headfirst out the 2-story window, but there's, like... blood where it looks like she was hanging on. She also cut herself, moved the giant bed to get to the window, but then the bed was back in front of the window.
Yeah.
And the nightstand's moved that there's blood drops under the leg of the nightstand. Like, it's sitting on top of a pool of blood.
I just want to know...
Oh, and her body temperature dropped to 82 degrees. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a ton of snow in Massachusetts that night. It was just a dusting. Like, you could see grass. So it's not like a giant Massachusetts snowstorm where she fell into, like, an embankment of snow and was laying in it, impacted.
Yeah.
Like...
Even that, like, if your body temperature is dropping to 82 degrees within a time frame of going to CVS to that, like, that makes no sense.
They were saying from the time where she would have the kids and then done all those steps herself first... And then when he came back, was 16 minutes that she would have been laying out there. There's no way.
Even in episodes of schizophrenia, where there's absence of the thought process and the malicious intent and the historical, like where people have like had like schizophrenia, like type absences of reality, it's too much. It's too much. So there's a lot going on with that.
Yeah.
Explain your hatred for the prosecutors, though.
These and you know I don't use that word like you use the word.
I use like it's my last name. I love it. It's a good word.
I get why they picked 2 women as the prosecutors, because it was like, well, if these women are against her, you should be too. Like, it was trying to get that feeling from the jury. The one, first of all, they are both like my age and they look like they're in their 50s.
Well, yeah.
They look rough.
Like, you showed me something that said, like, the amount of coals cashed between these two has to be insane.
Yeah. The one wears a bow in her hair every day to honor Cora, because Cora loved bows. Cora was 5. Cora should have loved bows.
Mm-hmm.
You are 45. A bow does not look right the way she styles it. I've had a bow twice in my hair in the last, like, year. One was a photo shoot that I didn't, like, plan out. And then one was Shelby's wedding.
Yeah.
But it was, like, low and vintage looking with my dress. Like, it worked. These are just, like... And I don't think it's really to honor the little girl. I think it's to taunt Lindsay. That Lindsay sees a bow in the hair and is reminded of her daughter. Like, it's a tactic. You can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah, a lot of prosecutors will do that.
I think that's their job.
I mean, like, this is the thing. Like, but it's a weak tactic for somebody who has a weak case.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we invoke emotion to show the instability of the defendant?
Yeah. And then there was 2 moments this week that were like, what the fuck? Like, the one was when she was talking to Patrick's mom, the mother-in-law, she said, "You're Catholic, so you know murder's a mortal sin."
Yeah, and that one was an Instagram clip that went viral because the judge instantly said, "Sidebar."
Yeah. Like, I mean, you can't use someone's religion against, like, you know, to sway things. Plus, that move in a Massachusetts court with a jury that's going to be, like, pretty highly Catholic.
And Massachusetts is really big into separation of church and state.
Yeah.
They're really big into that. Now, granted, they believe in church, whether it be the Irish Catholic or Italian church. They believe in church and they believe in the Catholic guilt. And the mortal sin, like, yeah, that's a legit thing to bring up.
Yeah.
However, they do not want their God in the court. They
don't like it being used.
Yeah, because now you're basically, and this is where it's a low blow, it's like, it's a hit or miss. It's either going to be a home run or you're going to strike out. Yeah. And she struck out because you can't now say anything in regards to the state of mind based upon your beliefs.
Yeah.
Because now you have to separate the things of facts. The facts are ultimately is what's going to determine the case. Yeah. Beliefs are things that can sway a jury. So you can't even make the attempt to sway the jury because you made a swing and a miss on people's beliefs.
Yeah.
And the thing that you should focus on more than anything else is psychosis. What was your mental state? Talk to the doctors. Bring in the people from Women and Infants.
Yeah.
And they're trying this as a murder case. You and I both know. Like, as somebody who, I'm black, I'm a certified paralegal in the streets, right? Because the police don't fuck with me, right? If the most they could get out of this is man too. The most they can get out of it is man too. And that's really pushing it. If they have, now granted, her defense attorney, I feel, is too passive.
He's sneaky with it. Like, he's really good.
I think he's too passive in the standpoint of, like, you need somebody he's a very matter of fact type of guy. Now, again, as somebody who just watches the Instagram clips, I'm not really as invested as you are because you'll sit and watch this shit for hours.
Yeah.
I think that the prosecutors are, like you said, very women.
Yeah.
But I also think that they're very weak lawyers.
Yeah.
I don't think that their strength with that. I think what they did and what the DA did is, like, let's take women to prosecute a woman.
Yeah.
Because if it was a man prosecuting a woman, they wouldn't have a chance in hell. But these women are really doing a disservice to women.
Yeah.
By how they're representing themselves. Because this is the thing. They could, if they brought it up as sympathizers versus, like, this is going to be, like, if you're a sympathizer and you still say, look, this is where we have to really look at this. And this is where closing arguments are going to be.
Yeah.
Do any of these prosecutors have kids?
I think.
Then the closing arguments is what's going to be the biggest thing, because that's where they can say, as a sympathizer, as a mother,
Yeah. I feel like the way they're handling it right now, I feel like they would have been better off having a lawyer that was also known as being a good dad. I think a good dad who, like, could, like, argue the fact of, like, I can't imagine going through this. Because right now, these two women are just bombing.
Yeah.
Like, they're just bombing for this. And then the other big moment that the one specialist was, she was over Zoom, and she was talking about, like, how she fell, how she probably landed to be what she was, and how she broke things. And was talking about the exercise bands. And they were trying to argue that the bands weren't, like, tied, they were just wrapped around, and that if she let go of them, like, the pressure would be gone. So she had to, like, do it. However, Patrick had testified that the bands were tied around the necks like a shoelace without the bows. So he flat out said that they were tied. He supposedly untied the one and started CPR on Cora before the paramedics got there and took over. However, the paramedics testified that when they got there, all the kids were still face down, and he was sitting on the couch, and they started CPR. So that's another thing he lied about. He shouldn't have been allowed so much access to the crime scene. They didn't find her Apple Watch till, like, days later in a drawer. It wasn't taken it right away. Like, he had access that, like, he could have moved stuff around. Like, there's a lot of things that are
I feel like this is almost a very much a situation like we saw in the Air McNair documentary, and like how crappy the cops were there.
Yeah.
Like just belligerent to the fact of trusting.
Yeah, well, because, like, his one uncle or something was, like, on the police force and stuff.
Yeah.
Another, like, member of the DA, I think, bought their house a year later. He had all 3 kids cremated, so there's no way to, like, look at the body for evidence and stuff.
Smart.
Like, but when there's going to be a case, I feel like that shouldn't have been allowed. Like, I feel like there should have been a stop. Like, they literally walked into the house to 3 kids and a woman paralyzed in the backyard that couldn't speak because she had a crushed thyroid and neck, and they just took his word for what happened.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is like...
And I think that's why you have so many women sympathizers with it, is that, you know, it's, one, is a lot of BS within the system, but 2, it's like, again, you have a man speaking for a woman.
Yeah.
Where this woman clearly was failed by the medical system.
Oh, horribly failed by the medical system. And then his behavior since this happened is shady as fuck. Because another thing that throws off his timeline is the baby was able to they were able to get a heartbeat back. And
died a couple days later, yeah.
Yeah. The paramedics arrived, I think they said, like, 20 to 30 minutes later. By the time he got to the hospital, there's, like, a very short window of how long a child that young can be without a heartbeat for them to get it back. And it doesn't give her enough time to then do all that stuff to herself. And if they were able to get his heartbeat back.
Yeah, because the timeline's, like, anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah. So, like, it doesn't...
And even if that kid were to survive, it would be severely handicapped.
Yeah. So, like, the timeline doesn't add up with that. But then the day after the baby, Patrick posted a huge message on a GoFundMe. And he describes his kids as great people that had a lot of friends. They're 5, 3, and 8 months. That's a weird description.
Yeah.
And then he says, there's a couple lines where he talks about how he hopes Lindsay finds peace in this. But it really reads like it was originally hopes Lindsay rest in peace. And that, like, but she survived, so he had to go back and change it. Like, it's really how it reads. Because it's very oddly written.
It's a past tense post that was written in the present.
Yeah.
It's a PR post. Like, literally in human resource, you see those shits all the time.
But it really sounds almost like it was written and then, like, he had to edit because she survived. And he's made $1.7 million on the GoFundMe. So he's walking away a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
He sold his house, kept the profits from that,
Mm-hmm.
started a non-profit to honor the kids.
Mm-hmm. That's just a money funnel.
And the non-profit headquarters is an apartment in New York where the new wife was located that he rented the day before the murder.
Mm-hmm.
A father of 3, why are you renting an apartment in New York?
Yeah.
When you're close enough to travel into New York when you need to.
The thing that's going to be crazy is, I'll ask you this question, and then we'll wrap up the podcast for this part, because we're probably going to have a part 2 on this, because we'll have our Clancy corner. Do you think she'll be acquitted?
I don't know. The purpose of this trial is not supposed to be not to determine if she's guilty or not, but if she was
acting of sound mind.
Yeah. So the court of the public is trying it as guilty or not guilty when that's not even the point of this. So I don't know if we, as in the TikTok public and whatnot, is going to get the results we want. Mm-hmm. Because that's not really what this current trial is about. However, I'm wondering if there's going to be some sort of kind of like mistrial because of some of the stuff that like has been pulled with the prosecution and like.
I think one of the things that's going to be probably the most alarming that people will see in going forward is the crimes and convictions of the husband, because the simple fact that he hasn't been charged with perjury is a little crazy to me.
Yeah.
Clearly he lied under oath, where he could have just evoked his Fifth Amendment right.
Because like another thing he was caught lying about was he said that he didn't know she was seeing the one doctor, and that one doctor testified that he was on a Zoom with the doctor, Lindsay. Mm-hmm. And then he also lied and said that Lindsay never told him that she had thoughts of harming the kids. And his own mother said on the stand, she told me and Patrick, I think she said in the kitchen, or like they were in the house, but that Lindsay told her and Patrick at the same time, I have thoughts of harming the children.
And that's a womanhood that you can't shake or hide. And that is something that over the next couple of weeks, we'll probably see a little bit more on both of those situations with Dalton Ain't Word and Lindsay Clancy. But it just goes to show, folks, you have to still like your fucking partner.
Yeah.
You really do. Otherwise, you're going to be on the news or on the social media, like Instagram news, and be reported and go through a bunch of series of bullshit and then have us talk about you. So tune in next week, because we'll have more to talk about. This has been another episode of Caffeine Controversy. It's of course been your boy, the fluffy one, Big Fluff Levi. Then we got PGP Thunder Butt Cheeks herself doing everything for the Lady Thickums. We'll be back next week. Maybe, maybe not. It all depends on how life treats us, but we hope it treats you well. Bye, bitches. See you when we see you. Deuces.
Make sure you follow us on all platforms, you misfits. And just remember, caffeine is first. The filter is never.
You're insane.
You love me, though.
I do.
And you like me.
I do.
Which is the biggest fucking thing.